to the broadcast of It's Time with Reverend Nathaniel W. Martin. Here's Reverend Martin.
All right, thank you, Dr. Blackwell. Let me say Hotep and Habaragani to my Africana Studies colleagues, contemporaries, friends, allies, and seekers after the truth. Oh, and let me hasten on to say good morning, good afternoon, good evening, but certainly never good night and never ever goodbye, because I personally have always found goodbyes to be traumatizing, especially now that I'm 78 and going to so many funerals. My name is the Reverend Nathaniel Wayne Martin. I am the pastor of the New Life Institutional Baptist Church here in the city of Los Angeles, and we're located at 8916 South Main Street. Zip code is 9003, and we are being hosted by our sister church, the Shiloh Missionary Christian Church, of whom my good friend, the Reverend Dr. Della F. Holiness, is the proud pastor. So whenever you're in the area, come on by. Usually you'll see the name before you see the address, because it's hard to see these addresses while you're driving, but you can see that white building with the red writing on it that says Shiloh Missionary Christian Church, and if you have a chance to look right below that, you'll see New Life Institutional Baptist Church. Come on in. We're in there, and we would love to embrace you and to welcome you and to hear how you heard about us over radio station KTYM. All right. This is a social justice offering, so we try to keep our volume of our voice, our rage, our excitement below the hoopalistic level, although we still apply how shall they hear without a preacher, and how shall he preach except he be sent. All right, so we embrace all of that and follow all of that, even as we try to give a social justice offering in 29 minutes. All right, now we usually have 4 scriptures, but I don't have my phone with me today, so I'm going to have to wing it. We're going to start with Micah 6:8, which teaches us what Micah says: He hath shown thee, O man, what is good, and what doth the Lord require of thee, but to do justly, to love mercy, and to walk humbly with thy God. Moving over swiftly to the house of St. Luke in the New Testament, Luke chapter 12, verse 1 of that 12th chapter of Luke, that last clause in which Jesus is talking to his disciples, and he's instructing them to beware the leaven of the Pharisees, which is hypocrisy. And then moving over to Ephesians 6 chapter, Ephesians 6 chapter, verses 11 and 12, it says, Put on the whole armor of God, that ye may be able to stand against the wiles of the devil. For we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of the darkness of this world, against spiritual wickedness in high places. And like again, I say, put on the whole armor of God, because you're going to need it. Because any little chink or crack that you leave, the devil will exploit it to its uttermost, whether by doubt or by rage or some other emotion to make you genuflect or fail to be at your post of duty, or fail to react or respond in time, as the case may be. And so that's why we need the whole armor, and that's why we must walk humbly and do justly and love mercy, as the Old Testament writer says, and walk humbly with our God. We have before us a lot of things. I'm going to start off talking about the Iran war, which is on again, off again. I noticed over the weekend, there's always a ceasefire. So the price of oil comes down for that Monday morning. Then you don't know what's going to do. So, but what I'm looking at, it says here that Iran is seeking $12 billion out of the $24 billion that is frozen abroad. But this $24 billion is being frozen in Qatar. This is according to the Tasnim news agency, which is affiliated with Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guards Corps. Qatar, where some of the funds are held, is a mediator in the discussions, and Iranian and Qatari officials met on Monday. Okay, it says that the United States and Iran have sent conflicting signals about what it would take to reach a deal to end the war. But amid competing demands from both sides, Tehran has not wavered from one condition: getting access to billions of its own money now frozen in foreign banks. All right. The funds have become a sticking point in talks with Iran insisting that meaningful negotiations cannot begin without the money's release, Iranian state media reported on Tuesday. Okay, this is a Friday that I'm reading. But a senior U.S. administration official who declined to be named told reporters on Sunday last, that while the question of Iran's frozen funds could potentially be part of a deal down the line, Iran would have to commit to giving up its highly enriched uranium first. No dust, no dollars, the official said, referring to President Trump's term for the highly enriched uranium, which he calls nuclear dust. And let me put a pin in that. And like I said, it looks like every weekend the same thing occurs. President Trump says that we're close to a deal, that a ceasefire is imminent, and so the price of oil on the open market goes down. Brent crude goes back under $100, and then we find out it was all just smoke and mirrors, delusion. All right, and we've done that. We played that game too many times. Now let's go to Israel. It says here that Israel's ambassador to the United Nations said Thursday, that was yesterday, that his country would cut ties with the United Nations Secretary General and his office after the office's decision to include Israel on an upcoming sexual violence blacklist over alleged sexual abuse of Palestinian detainees. And it has come out that Israel has been systematically abusing detainees on the flotilla, or just people that it has arrested on the West Bank and in Gaza, and horribly in Lebanon. The people have reported that they have been probed, well, their rectums have been invaded with iron rods, and this is why the United Nations is putting Israel on a upcoming sexual violence blacklist. Now, naturally, the Israelis, I should say, hope I'm saying Israelis, because that's the one who's doing it. It's the Israelis are guilty of these things. As a matter of fact, while we haven't seen the obvious graphic videos, we have had enough close contact with the evidence to know that the Israelis are abusing the prisoners. You're supposed to honor Geneva Convention prisoner of war codes, but it looks like the Israelis thumb their noses at the Geneva Convention and at the war codes, which were placed there after 1945, because so many atrocities and cruelties had been committed in war, not the least of which the Holocaust, of which the Jews of that time, they say over 6 million Jews were eliminated in the ovens and in the concentration camps run by the Germans. So to see that Israel is engaging in these types of crimes, they are crimes, they are war crimes, whether they ever stand before the judgment bar for them or not, they are war crimes. And when you stick a iron rod up somebody's behind, rectum, anus, that's potential damage. That's torture. That's torture. That's what they did to Abner Louima. That's what the police did to Abner Louima there in New York, if you can remember that case that far back. And that type of thing is not supposed to be done. You're supposed to treat the prisoners with dignity and respect, and honor the Geneva Convention's codes on war and warfare, and how to treat the, like I said, prisoners. But of course, it looks like Israel said those things apply to other people, but they don't apply to us. But they must apply to Israel if they're going to apply to anybody at all. And you can't let Israel get away with it and then tell the Russians that you're committing war crimes because you're using drones to bomb buildings, public buildings, civilian buildings over there in Ukraine. What's good for the gander is good for the goose. It was a statement made way back when I was taking Psychology 101, said you must live by that principle. No, you must live by that law whereby you can make it a universal principle of nature. Now, you know, that's way back yonder for me to remember that. But that was how, in other words, you were to approach your interactions with society and your interrelations with other members of society, especially those that you had animus or hostility or controversy with. You had to be sure to treat them with the utmost regard, because suppose they were to capture some of your people, and you would begin to hear that they were being mistreated. Well, no, you would want your people to be treated with that same level of respect and human decency. So it goes back to the golden rule, which Jesus said, do unto others as you would have them do unto you. And we all know that. We all been to Sunday school. At least most of us have. And even if we have not, we have the inner conscience within ourselves that we know the difference between right and wrong. We know we're doing wrong. We're not most of us are not sociopaths, psychopaths, and the like ilk. We have been a moral center. Regardless of what philosopher we study, we know that we must have a moral center. A moral center, not just some rules and laws and regulations, because that will get us back into slavery. And remember, the Germans studied the Jim Crow codes all over the South. And that's how they developed their plan to deal with the Jews there in Germany, because when the criminals, after the war was over, they were beginning to hold trials, and they would ask them about these things that they were guilty of doing, and they say, well, we learned it from America. We learned it from America. I'm trying to think of the place where they were put on trial. It wasn't The Hague, it was the other place. But its name escapes me right now. But you'd be surprised how the United States has influenced social mores and war mores around the world, and usually not for the better. If you remember Abu Ghraib, what they were doing to the prisoners there in Abu Ghraib, they actually got from studying the prison system right here in Louisiana and Mississippi and other places like that, and that's how they were mistreating the practices that they were using there. They learned over here, and there was a lieutenant in Chicago. His last name was Burge, I believe. He actually died. He was never held to account for the torture that he put a lot of young black people through in order to extract confessions against their will. Not that they were guilty, but that if I can make you say you did it, then I can tell the judge, yeah, you said you did it. So now there you go up the river. But he was using torture and other physical extortions in order to wrest these confessions from black people, but especially across the South. There was a notorious sheriff there in Groveland, Florida, who did the same practice of beating confessions out of people, and then once you said yes, I did it, well then the sheriff and the deputies would stand and go before the judge and say, yes, we heard him confess to it. Well, they didn't tell the judge that they beat the man half to death in order to make him say those type of things. So these are observations that I'm making in passing. Let me finish up this that I was reading. I was dealing with the Israeli ambassadors to the United Nations, and it says here that Danny Danon, the Israeli ambassador, said that he had been officially informed by the Secretary General's office that Israel and its current security services would be included in an annual report on conflict-related sexual violence. Now, I forgot to add too that this sexual violence is not being committed against women; it was being committed against men. Okay, he called the decision disconnected from the facts and reality, a likely story. The military's former chief legal officer had resigned over her role in leaking surveillance footage of the alleged abuse to local news media in an effort to ensure that prosecution could not be thwarted, further fueling the uproar surrounding the case. Okay, it says Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu described the prosecution as a blood libel. You know, they always throw that around when you really get on them. That's what they throw at Lyndon Baines Johnson when he was going to get on Israel about the attack on the ship, what was the name of that ship? Liberty. The Israelis attacked that ship, and they tried to sink that ship, and by the grace of God, they couldn't sink it. And when the news finally got out, then the Israeli lobbyists over here in America told Lyndon Baines Johnson, this was 1967 for you historical buffs, that if he said anything about it, they were going to accuse him of being a blood libel, and whatever that means, it was a stigma that a politician of Lyndon Baines Johnson, because he was president by that time, didn't want on him, and so he swallowed his pride. He didn't let the world know that the Israelis had attacked an American ship and had tried to sink that American ship. And the name of the ship, again, was the Liberty. Let me keep on reading. Where am I? The military's former chief legal officer says a blood libel, okay. that had defamed Israel. Oh, here we go. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu described the prosecution as blood libel that had defamed Israel worldwide and said it had been conducted in a criminal manner. Now, you know, if anything, these United Nations tribunals, whatever they are conducted in the wide open spaces right there in the United Nations, and the people gather. The people come in with their facts and they submit them to the General Assembly, and then they make a decision. So, but Netanyahu is quick to say this was a blood libel. Okay. Also, it says earlier this month, and we're in the month of May, Mr. Netanyahu threatened to sue the New York Times for defamation over an opinion column describing the use of sexual violence against Palestinians by some soldiers. You see, soldiers, settlers, and prison guards. You see, the soldiers, okay, they're in the military, but the settlers, those are private civilians, citizens, and they're using sexual violence against Palestinians, you see. And yet they accused the Palestinians on September 7th of using sexual violence against them. And yet they have not brought up one single iota of evidence to show that such a thing ever occurred from the Palestinians against the Israelis. There's no evidence of such a thing having occurred on October 7th, when this all began. All right, now, the Times said in a statement that the threat aims to undermine independent reporting and that any such legal claim would be without merit. That's from the New York Times. That means that they're going to stand their ground. They stand by their story. They stand by their reporting. They stand by their journalism. And I applaud the New York Times for not folding, because so many of these so-called institutional organs, which are the legacies that we have to look at now to get our news, ABC, NBC, CBS, CNN, and the like, they have all been purchased by private people who don't have no interest in the news or the correct reporting of the news, especially in the case of Mr. Bezos or Mr. Rupert Murdoch, or Mr. Ellison. They have no interest in accurate, truthful reporting. No, they want to make money off of those organs, or control those organs, those institutions, as we call them. All right, now let me go back down here on in Canada. The Prime Minister of Canada, Mr. Carney, outlines plan for new U.S.-Canada relationship. All right, Mr. Carney says the world is undergoing a rupture. Led by the United States, technological change is accelerating at a pace we have not seen in our lifetime. That, of course, includes AI and all of those things that have happened. But, of course, the biggest thing that happened is that Donald Trump became president. He tried to put all these tariffs against Canada, and thus Canada has started to deal with other nations like China, Russia, so-called third world countries, in order to not have to be subject to the vagaries of what has been described as the institutionalized unpredictability of America's Oval Office. All right. The U.S. is transforming all of its commercial relationship, as is its right. The world is becoming more divided and dangerous, and our response reflects the core lesson that we've taken from these tectonic shifts, namely, that we have to take care of ourselves. Like I said, this is the Prime Minister of Canada, Mr. Carney. and we have to be true to ourselves. And that means weaving a dense web of international partnerships abroad that's making us a more stronger, more resilient, more independent country. Canadian exports to the United States are the energy equivalent of 10 Hoover Dams. With America's growing energy needs because of the incredible transformation here, does it really make sense to build the gigawatts here needed to replace Canada? On automobiles, Canada really makes sense to build the gigawatts here needed to replace, ran across the line. On automobiles, Canada is far and away America's biggest customer, and an integrated North American market for production is the best and most durable way to confront intense, truly intense global competition. And Mr. Carney closes this out by saying, let's be perfectly clear, Canada strong will help make America great. Okay, all right, thank you. 5 minutes, y'all, 5 minutes. Make America great again. And the upshot of all of that is, like I said, when Mr. Trump came in the second time, he began to put tariffs on all goods coming in from Canada. Before Mr. Trump imposed those tariffs, Canada was our greatest trading partner, because they're right there, up north of New York, up north of Michigan. That's Canada. But because of Donald Trump coming in and imposing tariffs, then he have, as Mr. Carney said, he have ruptured the relationship that previously existed, going way back to when the country was actually established as a nation. They've been trading with Canada from that time up until Donald Trump came in and ruptured everything. And so, as you can see, there is a difference or a change or an unreliability in the way Mr. Trump confronts the international world. And so, as a result, all of the nations, not just Canada, but the other nations as well, are seeking out other trading partners other than the United States of America. United States will no longer be their chief trading partner of Canada, because, as Mr. Carney said, there is a rupture. That's when a vessel or a balloon or a bottle or whatever, wine skin, whatever, it develops such a break that all of the wine is being poured out, and you can't close up the rupture. So you need to get a different bag or a different vessel, as the case may be, a different container. And so this is what the other nations are doing. Remember, the farmers in the United States used to sell over, I think, $4 billion worth of soybeans to China. But when Trump became president, he busted that up. So that the soybean sales are not unreliable because of Donald Trump. And I hate to make all of these accusations, but there they are in front of you. All right. As I get ready to close, or as I am closing, if you're working on a job and they don't want to pay you, take my advice. Don't waste your life. Don't waste your time. Don't give your energy. If they don't want to pay you what you're worth, child, don't work for them. Thank you, Doc. We out of here. Love you. Keep the faith. Keep the faith.
Yeah, some sleepless nights. But when I